Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Yumble, and today I'm here to talk to you about intersection marking tool. So of course we're here in Cities Skylines. We're here in a bit of a city that I've whipped up for example's sake, just to show off things like this. And I just want to point out, look at this, these two big empty areas here. Now the road system in Cities Skylines operates on what are called nodes, which are these things here. The places where roads meet one another are called nodes, where any network meets itself. So networks can be roads, paths, fences, water pipes, keys, key, it's pronounced key, it's the things in here. I was surprised too. So like this guy, that's a network. Anything that can be drawn and connected to itself is a network in this game. So road networks are connected by nodes, and when you connect multiple different road types together, you get an intersection. So that's a highway intersection. You could say that's a merge and a split. You'll notice it's not marked at all, though. There's nothing, how does traffic know that it's continuing on or leaving? Or, like, there's no, in the real world, there's no intersection on the highway that looks like this, because cars, if it looked like this, cars wouldn't know which lane. Like, this lane wouldn't know, and it would merge over here, and there'd be collisions here, and it would be weird. So today I want to show you, there's a few empty intersections, and I want to show you how to fix them up using intersection marking tool. So when you arrive in an intersection that you know you're going to modify, first I recommend using Traffic Manager to figure out what your lane management or what your turning arrows will be. So maybe a separate video on Traffic Manager is in order, but figure that out first, because you want to know where your traffic's going, what each of your lanes do. Otherwise, marking the intersection, you may mark it in a way that doesn't make sense. So now I've got the intersection set up in a way that I like with Traffic Manager. I'd say step 2, in my opinion, once again, is to go into what's called Node Controller. I strongly recommend the mod Node Controller to go along with this. And I'm going to hit the button Node Junction Markings. There may be other mods that do this too. Node Controller does it really well, and it's useful for other things. So I'd say do Node Junction Markings. And you can decide this later too, but I might recommend increasing the size of an intersection so that the cars can turn a little bit further, if you know what I mean. The turning radius becomes a little less sharp, and the turns look a little more natural, rather than like a 90-degree, at this angle, it's very much like a 90-degree little corner. If you make that 90 wider, then it's, much easier in the cars, much like in the roundabout video. So maybe I'll do 25 here. You can do this after too, but doing it before for illustration purposes is fine. No junction markings. The initial crosswalks, we're actually going to replace using intersection marking tool. Now for me, here's the funny thing. I've seen other people talk about intersection marking tool, and usually theirs appears right here, but I have a couple other mods under right now I'm in the roads tab. I've got a couple other mods there. So for me, somebody please comment why this works this way, but for me, I know that I have to click a transit network, and then I'm able to see intersection marking tool and node controller, the two most recent mods that fall under this slot. So now I'm going to open up intersection marking tool, and we can begin by throwing down the crosswalks, if that's what you want to do. So hold Shift to draw a crosswalk, and click the end where you want the crosswalk to begin. I want a crosswalk here as well. These crosswalks actually look much cleaner than the stock crosswalks, a lot nicer. And they also, unfortunately these don't go all the way to the edge. I might be able to fix that later. But they look a lot cleaner, and they also can be changed. You can do a zebra crossing. You can do double zebra, so that's a wider zebra. Parallel solid lines. Ladder would be the US style, typically. Not all the time. Zebra's fine, though. We'll just do zebra because it's the stock for the game. Now we've re-added our crosswalks. So I would say that's one thing, probably the first thing intersection marking tool does. We'll say it does crosswalks. Thing 2 is probably the thing you're going to be spending the most time doing, and that's drawing lines. So we're going to end up... the next thing I'd recommend doing is drawing all the lines that you want displayed on the road. Or not displayed. All the lines... Draw all the lines. You'll know what I mean by the end of this, I promise. So this left turn, we're going to draw a line there to illustrate that left turn. So it exists. That's cool. We'll let that be dotted. We can change it later. Once you've drawn a line from a point to another point, you can change the style here, much like the crosswalk. You can go to this menu here. For crosswalks, it was under the crosswalks tab. For lines, it's under the lines tab. So this is the first line. If you highlight each of these, it shows you which line it's describing. So you don't have to try to remember these point designations. The intersection, these are all the possible points in the intersection. You don't have to memorize any of the names. Just hover over this, scroll through it with your mouse. It'll show you there. Let's say I want this to be a solid line. You can do that. Let's say I want it to be double solid, you know. For now, I'm going to leave it as dashed because I'm not sure what's going on yet. This is going to be a bit of trial and error to see what's going on. So I know I want a line there. I also know, if you right-click, it exits the exits the interface. I know that I want a left turn here, so we'll do that. I'm going to leave it dotted as well, or dashed rather. I know that I want another left turn here. And let's say you know that you want this to be solid. You know, rather than going in and clicking and going and changing it to solid, which is fine to do, you can do that. But if you hold Shift, so let's say I've clicked here, I'm highlighting this one. Oh, okay. Highlighting this one, hold Shift, and it'll draw a solid line. If you hold other things, if you hold double here, I'm not actually going to draw this line, but if you hold Shift for a solid line, dashed without modifier. So dashed is nothing. Dashed is the default generally. I think you can change this in the settings too. A double solid is Control Shift when you're making the line, and a double dashed is hold Control while you're making the line. So like this one here, if I want it to be solid, I think I do want it to be solid eventually. So hold Shift there. 2 solids. This one, we're probably going to want solid as well. I find it's even quicker to redraw the line. If you're familiar with Traffic Manager, this is the same thing. This is the same idea. So I'm drawing all these lines. Also, I think every country has different ways of marking intersections. So don't take my word for it. You know, I'm showing you how to use the mod, but if you're doing a certain build, if you're doing a US build or a European build, you know, Asian countries might have even different markings and different colors and different configurations that are familiar. Feel free to look around. You know, Google Images will be very powerful when it comes to that. So line drawing is step 2, in my opinion. Do your crosswalks first. Do your line drawing second. You can modify where the lines start and end by holding Control. So if I want this to line up, which I do, let's say we want that line to line up there, hold Control and then click on the point, and you can change where that point is on the line here, you know. I wish there was a slightly more refined way to do this, but there we go. Like Move It has the option to hold Control, and you get a lot more control over the thing. Not in this case, but that's okay. So we're drawing lines, drawing lines. So my goal here is to create all the lines that this intersection needs, and then modifying it after. So this will take a lot of trial and error for everybody. This will take a lot of trial and error for me. I know roughly what I'm going for, but I recommend drawing all the lines that you want, and it will probably be too much initially. This one I actually want it to be dashed, I think. Or actually no, it can just be invisible. If you want to make an invisible line, this is important to remember. If you want your line to be invisible, you can click here and turn this all the way down. This is your alpha channel. So we have a line there, but it's invisible. But it's there, but it's invisible. I'm going to do the same thing for this one. I know that I'm going to want to use this space for something. For the bike lane, spoiler alert, you can do fillers with this. That's the next step. We're going to do a bike lane using fillers. So I drew those lines so we can guarantee ourselves the ability to build a filler. So we've got some lines drawn. Let's say, hold off on the filler for 1 second. Let's say you want the line to stop and start again at some point. You know, let's say that, let's check this out. What if I wanted, I want to select this line from this blue dot to this purple. To find it, I'm going to scan this. Cool, found it. And let's say I want the line to be only in this little section here. So I'm going to click the start point, and I'm going to click where I want it to start. I'm going to click the end point. I'm going to say where I want it to end. Cool. I don't actually want that line to go all the way across down to there. I just want it to be that one little section there. That's what we're going for. And that line next to it, the line, so the orange to orange here, that line is here. I want it to do the same thing. I just want it to be this little section here, this little noodle doodle. So I'm going to say the start point is actually here, and I'm going to say the end point is actually here. So we've done the same thing there. You know? So we've taken that path, that direction that it's going, and we've cut it down to this level. If I wanted to, let's say I wanted one of these to still have a dotted line to it, we can do that. That's easy. I can add a rule, and then I'll click where the rule starts and where the rule ends. Could be there. Sure. Good. So now this illustrates where this turn is actually happening, if you see that there. So now the turn is marked with that dotted line, and the first part of that line is solid. So that's a rule when you want a solid line and a dashed line. Or if you wanted a solid line and then no line and then a dashed line. The point is, if you wanted to change just a segment of this, you don't want the whole thing to be the same thing, or you want part of it to disappear, you can add a rule, or you can affect where the from and to markers are. And everything highlights what you're... if you hover these, it selects the point that you're about to change. So hovering over this is very powerful. So that's good for starters. I want to do the same thing to this. You're going to watch me muddle through for a little bit. So I'm going to... I don't need a rule just yet, but let's start here. I want to make this line go from here to here. I want there to be a break there, and we've added a rule, and I want the rule to cover here to here with a solid line. And then I want to add a second rule. I don't think I've ever done an intersection with two rules. So check it out. Start point there, end point there. Awesome. So I'm making breaks for these, essentially. Let's do the same thing to the next line, the next vertical line here. So we're going to do start point will be here, end point will be... Ooh, I take it back. Start point will actually be here, end point will be here, because I want to make a break in the road so these guys can turn left through it. Essentially, I'm making a median. And then at the end here, let's find the next line. Boom. So I want to get rid of I want to alter this one. I want to make the starting point here and the end point here. It doesn't actually matter which one's the starting point and which one's the end point. You know, it's not totally relevant. And I want to add a rule from here to here that's dotted, just so they stay in their lane. And this other turning line here, I want to alter what's going on. So we'll make the whole thing dotted initially. Dashed, rather. I keep saying dotted. Want the whole thing to be dotted so they nail their left turn. And that should actually be good. I don't like this spot here. Usually, this might not be a rule for everyone, but generally, the turning lanes are on the inside. If you know what I'm saying. So cool. So we've covered lines, essentially. That basically does it for lines. I'm going to make one small modification to this one. I don't need the rule here. Get rid of that. Easy enough. Cool. So now I want to add fillers to this intersection that we've just created in real time. We're doing it live, people. We're doing it live. I've not done this. I've not pre-gamed for this intersection. I've prepared nothing. I've prepared no notes. So let's say we want to do a filler for the bike lane, which makes sense. We do want to make a filler for the bike lane. So if you're here and you hold Alt, if you're at this point, I'm actually going to start it here. No, we'll go all the way to the end. If you hold Alt, everything turns red, and you're able to connect points that have been connected in the past. Either adjacent points or points that have already been connected at one point or another. So now we've got this. That is not what I want at all. We want this to be a filler. So I want this to be solid. So much like all the other ones, there's a little drop-down menu. I want this to be solid, and I want this to be a certain green color. I want it to be the same green color as this specifically, so I'm going to try to match that using a couple things here. So I'm going to try to match the tone of the green, and then we're going to reduce the opacity using the alpha channel because it's a bit see-through. You can see the texture there. We can kind of see the texture there, but that tells me that if we reduce the alpha channel a little bit, it may end up looking similar. So I'm just going to try to match this as best I can so the bike lane is clear. That's actually pretty good for on the fly, you know? All these things can be saved as templates as well. That's an important fact. If you ever have an important line or a color that you've drawn and you want to save it as a template, you can hit this flag here, the plus flag, and that gives you the ability to name that thing that you've just created. So that's pretty good for a bike lane. I'm going to save that, actually. We're going to hit Save as Template. I'm going to name this Bike Filler, assuming I haven't already called that. I've got a couple bike ones already for other cities I've built, but Bike Filler. That's good. And now we've got it. Cool. So let's go to this other one, this other lane here, because I'd love for the bikes to know what they're doing in this intersection. So we're going to start here. I'm just going to reconnect all of this. And we're going to do a slightly different filler. We're going to do a... there's a better way to do this. If you go the long way first, it'll probably work better if you're trying to make like a bike crosswalk, which is effectively what we're about to do. That's the goal here. That was silly. Maybe I have to do it short way first. Once again, this is live. This is me learning, teaching, learning, loving, living, laughing, loving in real time. So we're going to try it short way first. Okay, same result. That's okay. Stripes is correct. I'd like to angle it 90 degrees. That was essentially 90 degrees off from what I want. So we're going to go to 90 degrees. We can see that it's 90 because of this little marker over here. Boom. So I did 90 degrees there. Awesome. And I actually want it to be, I want to apply a template, and I want it to be our bike filler, but we're going to change it to stripes. Oof. Live and learn. Live and learn. So we've got this bike crossing effectively now. You can also just type the value in so as to not waste people's time if you ever make a video about this like I do. Cool. So I want to change the end of this crosswalk as well, just because it doesn't go far enough. Hold control to do that. Everything's flexible too. You can copy stuff, paste stuff, move stuff. It's all malleable. So now we've got this kind of cool scenario going on here. I'd like to do a couple more fillers. A couple more cool guy fillers. Watch this. So we're going to connect. Oh, that doesn't connect. Oh no. All right, we're going to start a filler here. Why you know exist? I desperately want to fill in this spot, but we'll come back to it in a second. I know this one will work. We're going to start a filler right here. And this is going to be a striped filler, just like this here. So the goal is to match this, essentially. I'd like to do that here and here on the ends as well. So we're going to do, I'm going to type 90 and then we'll modify it from there. So we'll go 90 and then we'll tilt it the right direction. I'm comparing it to the already existing stripes here. And we're going to do negative 90 instead, because that's what you got to do. And we're going to increase that until the angle looks the same. And the step and the width are wrong as well. So we're going to change the step so that's a little bit more spaced out. We're going to make the width a little greater too, because the width of these is a little higher than the stock one. All right, we'll reduce the step back down a little bit. There we go. So the goal here is to have some continuity in this intersection, trying to match the tone, you know, the color of the bike lane, trying to match the angle of the stripes, which I've done pretty well. There's always room for improvement, but there's the angle of the stripes. Now, if I were me and I wanted to... No. Okay. This may work. This is good. We'll start with that. And we can actually copy this filler. So I'm just going to take this one. I'm going to create a template out of it. You don't even have to create a template. You can just hit the copy button and then go down to the one we just created and hit the paste button. That's cool. Oh, so the angle is wrong. once again. So I'm going to use the scroll wheel to try to match the angle a little bit. You know, that kind of thing. So eventually what you get is a properly marked intersection. These are just concepts. This whole thing here is a slight bit of a mess, we'll say. Could be better, room for improvement, but I'm not really sweating it. These are just the concepts. Like I said, look up your local road systems, or look up the municipality you're trying to replicate, and try to see how they do things. You know, don't take my word for it. That kind of thing. Cool. That looks pretty good. Where we're just matching what's already there for some continuity here. This one could be filled in as well. That is the idea. I'm probably going to do one more set of roads in just a second, just to show you how I do things. There's one, and this one we're actually just going to fill it in all the way. Solid. So the takeaway from that is there's three things this does. One is crosswalks, one is fillers, and another thing is lines. Lines can be built in segments. Lines that you've already drawn can be cut out by picking the end and the starting points. You can add fillers once you've drawn the lines, and crosswalks should probably be done first, in my opinion. Just an opinion. But yeah, let's go see how a highway looks when it's all marked up. So right now we're back to our original highway interchange. Here's the interchange in full. Here are the highway exits, and this is actually probably the best way to dip your toe into intersection marking tool. So bring up your intersection marking tool. You'll see that there are these big empty fields. I've already used node controller to increase the offset of the nodes. So 20 here, it should be 20 here as well. Cool, so we've already got this nice 20 offset. By default, it would look like this, which is really, really just awful. That's no highway looks like that. So increase this to 20 just to make it so it's not such a sharp contrast when you change roads. When you go from 3 to 2 and split one off, that kind of thing. So the best way to do this is to start with your solid lines by holding Shift. Click your point A to point B. Hold Shift again. Point A to point B. This will continue on as dotted. This one's going to be solid. And this one's going to be a solid line as well. So we've got from right to left in right-hand traffic, solid, 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 dotted, solid. Dashed rather, but solid. So now you can see this illustrates exactly what the road is doing. This is our exit lane. These are our through lanes. And there's one more thing you can do to make this extra cool. We're going to add a filler to this highway. Actually, one more thing. One more thing. If the lines don't quite match up, hold Control once again for best results. Hold Control and line these up visually yourself. Different road types won't always be exact. It's usually pretty close though. So now we're going to hold Alt to get into our fillers, and starting at the point of this, we are going to go from all three of the... Oh, we're going to connect these two. I almost forgot. Connect these with a solid line too for additional best results. Boop. And what we just did there, normally this would cut across, but because we drew this line here, it'll actually follow that line with the filler. And for this one, we're going to add chevrons, which are really nice for highway splits. It shows the cars exactly which way they're going. The chevron in this direction denotes that you're both going the same way and splitting off. You know, the slash is going the right way. You can study road markings to figure out more about the slash. The slashes in the road and chevrons and which way they're supposed to go. This is correct. And we can actually take this entire thing. So if you see this copy marking, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to right click to get out of that one. Left click on the one we want to paste it to. I'm going to hit the paste button. And then yes, I do really want to paste that. So this is something that's kind of fun. This is, if you look at what we just pasted, that's all wrong. This is not, this is not what this road does. This lane does not go over here. Everything's all wrong. But we haven't finalized it yet. You can actually click the rotate arrows. Once again, completely wrong. This is not happening. So we're going to rotate again. And maybe even a fourth time. And a fifth time. Okay. All right, in a perfect world. So we're going to cancel that. Cancel that. We're going to copy this one, which is virtually already done. I did this like at an earlier point. So I'm going to copy this one, which is oriented correctly. I could have copied this one to the split over here. So we're going to copy the this one to over here. Did you do paste? Yes. Rotate it into position. There we go. That looks pretty good. So hit the check mark to apply. Hold Control to adjust any points. This is usually copied over. Let's see. And this is correct for this one. This guy should actually be inverted from this one, which it already is. So those are both correct, and that's how you mark up a highway. That is the idea. There's a bit more to intersection marking tool than that even, but that's kind of where I'm at regarding intersection marking tool. You can draw lines, you can make line segments. Once you've done it, here's the real magic. Get ready for this. You take move it, just for the sake of example. If you take move it and move this, you'll see that the lines are baked into the network, which is just awesome. Control Z to undo and move it. And you'll also see if you go into node controller and you decide to increase the size of your node or decrease the size of the node after, make any changes, it'll adjust accordingly, which is just brilliant. It's baked into the network completely. Makes things really easy, makes things much cleaner than they would be otherwise. Makes the intentions of the road much more obvious and makes things a lot more realistic. Guys, thank you so much for checking out this one. This is going to conclude intersection marking tool. My name is Yumble. Once again, I stream on Twitch several days a week. Feel free to check me out there at twitch.tv/YumbleTV. There's a bunch of other YouTube videos as well, so feel free to follow me here, subscribe to me here. More educational stuff to come, more you know, stuff about mods, stuff about vanilla, whatever, fun cities stuff. Having a lot of fun doing this so far. The response has been really, really good. So guys, thanks for watching the videos, and I'll absolutely see you in the next one.